Hello, everyone. We're going to wait about a minute more just as the room populates. We have quite a few people. Oh. Okay. So first of all, I just want to say that my name is Sean Miller. I'm the program director here at the American Academy in Rome, and we will be joined shortly by the president of the American Academy. He is having a little bit of Wi-Fi issues, but he should be joining us soon. And then later on in the program, we're going to have a discussion with two of our Rome Prize winners, who you see here, Denise Costanzo and Hilary Sample. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. We normally have Peter do the welcome and intro, but I'm going to go ahead and start on just some basic information about the Rome Prize, just so that we utilize time the best we can here. So first of all, I just want to thank you all for joining us and having an interest in the Rome Prize and the American Academy in Rome. I've been with the Academy for 18 years now, so I'm obviously a fan. And I think our other two here will also say that they are fans of the Academy. So we look forward to sharing some information about the Academy and the Rome Prize Fellowship with you. So I want to start by just answering the question, what is the Rome Prize in a quantitative sense? So first of all, it is a residential fellowship. We offer 2 terms. One is a full term, which is about 10 months. The other is a half term, which is about 5 months. Recipients of the fellowship receive housing, and for the single applicant or single winner of the prize, they will be provided with a single room. Those who are bringing a spouse or a partner will be given a double room. All of these rooms, I should mention, do have a private bathroom. And for those who are bringing their families with them, they will be given an apartment at a building near the Academy. It's adjacent, actually. The building is adjacent to our main building. Winners of the prize also receive meals. These are provided. They're invited to participate in our Rome Sustainable Food Project, which provides lunch and dinner Monday through Friday at no cost to the Rome Prize winner. The meals for spouses and children are offered at a subsidized rate. Winners of the prize also receive a workspace, either a study or a studio, whichever is appropriate to your work. Oh, here we go. We have Peter joining us. Hi, Peter. Should I continue? Yeah. Okay. And we also included with the Rome Prize as a stipend. For the full-term winners, that's a $30,000 stipend. For half-term winners, that's a $16,000 stipend. And our winners reside at the Academy's 11-acre property, which is located on top of the Janiculum Hill in Rome. It's not right downtown, but it's easy access to the historic sites and the center of Rome, within walking distance, actually, I should mention. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the qualitative aspects of the Rome Prize. The prize gives you time and space to think, to work, to explore, and focus. Winners are given access to research facilities, to sites throughout Rome, Europe, and the Mediterranean region, Rome, Italy, and the Mediterranean region. The prize provides opportunities for relationships, both professional and personal. You will be living side by side with your fellow Rome Prize winners, as well as affiliated artists and scholars, residents, and meals are taken together with the whole group. So it's a great opportunity to get to know other people in your field and in fields that are offered at the American Academy in Rome. And finally, we offer opportunity for learning, growth, and development. It's a good way for someone to hopefully take the next step in their career. I think in general, it's giving you what you need to accomplish a project that you propose in your application. We have 13 different categories for the Rome Prize. I'm not going to list them all as they're listed on our website, but I do want to mention 2 in particular of interest. One that we've had for the last couple of years, it's fairly new. We've had 2 fellows selected for this prize so far. It's the Tsao Family Rome Prize. This is for a scholar who is working on the historic intersection of China and the Mediterranean in arts and ideas, with a particular attention to comparative research about philosophical worldviews and their cultural expression. So this is in our humanities categories. So it can be for any of the time periods for which we offer fellowships: ancient studies, medieval studies, Renaissance and early modern, or modern Italian studies. But you do need to have that link to China for the project that you're proposing. And then we're excited to announce a brand new cross-disciplinary fellowship in environmental arts and humanities that is specifically awarded for a collaborative team. The fellowship will be awarded to 1 artist and 1 scholar who are working collaboratively jointly on a project that aims to expand the understanding of the way human beings relate to experience or process their encounters with the natural world. And I'll say a little bit more about this opportunity shortly. I just also want to go into eligibility requirements for the Rome Prize. So first of all, in most categories, you must be a United States citizen. The exception to that is our postdoctoral fellowships in ancient studies, medieval studies, Renaissance and early modern studies, and modern Italian studies. For those 4 categories, you can be you do not need to be a U.S. citizen, but you do need to be residing in the United States at the time of the application, and for at least 3 years prior to the application deadline. Other eligibility requirements are that previous winners are not eligible to apply. I just got a question today as to whether somebody could apply, a previous winner could apply for our new opportunity, which is collaborative, and unfortunately not, because it's still a Rome Prize, so Rome Prize winners are not able to apply for that. Former winners are not able to, or past winners, sorry, not former winners. Past winners are not able to apply for that. Undergraduates are also not eligible to apply. And then there are other eligibility requirements for each category. So when you go to our website and review the application guidelines, you'll see what those different eligibility requirements include. The application deadline is November 1st is our primary deadline, but we do offer an extended deadline of November 15th for an additional application fee. So if you're applying and you need the extra 2 weeks, feel free to take that. There's no penalty for applying other than the higher application fee. The requirements for an application include an online application form, which you'll be able to find the link to in our guidelines. All categories require a project proposal, either 1 or 4 pages, depending on the category. They all require a resume or a CV, a work sample, which also varies depending on the category of application. And in most categories, we require 3 letters of recommendation. The exceptions to this, though, are literature, musical composition, and visual arts. For those 3 categories, we don't require letters, but we do require applicants to provide the names and contact information for at least 3 people to serve as references. I also want to talk briefly about joint and collaborative applications. Here I'll go in a little more detail about the environmental arts and humanities. But first, one that we've had for many years is collaborations within the same discipline. So if, for example, and one of our guests here today, Hilary Sample, is a recipient of one of those. So she and her partner were collaborating on they were collaborative applicants for our architecture category. And so for these type of collaborations, you do need to be in the same category. Each individual must meet all of the eligibility requirements. And the winners of these prizes each will receive a full prize. This is different from when Hillary, and she might be surprised to hear this, but now each person gets their own stipend, each person gets a living space, workspace, and their own meal plan through the Academy. And collaborators should submit 1 application with 1 of the collaborators serving as the primary applicant. So a little bit more about the Environmental Arts and Humanities Rome Prize is that this is, as I said, it's a pilot program designed specifically for collaborative efforts. The collaborative pairs may include artists of any sort, visual, digital, architectural, music, literary, textile, or performance, and scholars of any field, studying the past, the present, the future, the natural world, or the human world. Each winner, again, will receive a full stipend, their own individual living space, and will be invited to participate in the Rome Sustainable Food Project. However, in this case, for this fellowship, the winners will share a workspace. And applicants applicants for this fellowship must demonstrate a pre-existing working partnership to be considered for this fellowship. And with as with all of our Rome Prize fellowships, applicants also must make clear why their work needs to be done in Rome. I have one more thing that I want to touch on, which is the selection process. We will be assembling 12 juries this year. Each jury represents one discipline, except for architecture and landscape architecture, there will be one jury reviewing those two categories. The juries are comprised of professionals working in the discipline for which is being reviewed. So architects and landscape architects are reviewing those applications. Writers are reviewing the literature category. And visual arts, it could be artists or curators, but people who are very familiar with the work, the contemporary work in that field. The review process is in two steps. The first is a review of applications and a selection of finalists. We hold Zoom meetings for our juries in January and February, and at those meetings, they discuss the applications and select finalists for each category. Those finalists are then contacted to be interviewed. The interviews will take place about 3 to 4 weeks after the initial meeting, and those interviews will be in February and March. We will be doing a hybrid in-person and Zoom interviews this year, with the finalists being brought into our New York office to meet with the jurors who will be on Zoom. And the finalists will be notified within a couple of days of their interview whether they have been awarded the fellowship or not. All applicants will be notified of their status by mid-March at the latest. Hopefully we'll get that information to them sooner. And then finally, the winners will be announced publicly along with all of our jurors in late April of 2025. So that's all I need to share with you at this point. We'll be having a Q&A later in the session, but at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the Academy's president, Peter Miller.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure.
And thanks to all of you who are. It's exciting to be here to launch another year. And giving life, renewing life in the Academy to be our 130th. It's really exciting. We just in Rome for the beginning of the year, and reminding the new fellows that the giant cypress trees in the middle of our courtyard have been there since the building was built. That was it was completed in 1914. So they've seen a lot of autumns and a lot of fellows arrive, make their work, and depart. And that's a worthwhile thing to remember, to think about the fact that the Academy has been in the business of shaping the intellectual and cultural life of the United States for a very long time. Our boilerplate, as you probably know by now, is festooned with the numbers of awards and prizes won by our fellows over the years. And we take great pride in that. But more than the numbers, these prizes can't be counted on as the most accurate or purest measure of success. More to the point is the way in which the Academy, from an origin that focused on architecture and classical studies, has broadened to include all of the fields for which we now offer fellowships, and indeed in recent years have expanded even beyond those bounds as well. And I'll say a word about our most recent exploration moment. And I think that the way in which the Academy has expanded its interest has been in a dialogue with the changing shape of intellectual and cultural life in the United States. And like all healthy institutions, in some cases, it has led those changes, and others it has, I would say, wisely followed. But what comes through loud and clear is the way in which people who have come to Rome have benefited from that time. As Charles McKim, the real founder of the Academy, imagined, have benefited from that time not only for the 1 year that they've been in Rome, but as he said, they will return and change the spirit of the United States. And so, in a way, you're not really applying for that 1 year in Rome. Right? What we're looking for, and I think what you will gain, is a change many years afterwards, which makes even the benefits of spending a year on the Janicolo overlooking Rome pale in comparison with the benefits to come. Sean has talked about, and we indeed use this notion of time and space to work and think, which is so important for all of us. But I would also emphasize the way in which the Academy is, at the largest scale, a kind of organism or a gigantic collaborative machine. You've probably seen the pictures of the long tables with people eating and gesturing. And those are not staged. They happen a little bit like the changing of the guard in London twice a day, and they're real. They represent the Academy as a kind of laboratory, as a kind of think tank or incubator of ideas, just popping your favorite reference point for any institute devoted to pure research. The idea of institutions that are devoted to generating new ideas without being constrained by application or by a desired output. The outputs come, but that's not the point of the time spent. It's really meant to be a place that can generate creativity that's full, succinct, and in the shape either desired by those who are taking part in this experiment, or in the shape that emerges from the kind of serendipitous encounters that nobody necessarily anticipated in the precise shape in which they come. You know, and to that extent, what we are trying to do this year with the new pilot Rome Prize in Environmental Arts and Humanities is to explore formalizing something that can happen on its own, often just accidentally through the mechanism of those conversations, and that is to encourage collaborative work. I don't have to tell any of you that collaborative work in the sciences is the norm, and increasingly so in the humanities. There are certain kinds of questions, of course, that are maybe our best approached through solitary work, but quite a few others really benefit from sustained engagement. And some others can only really be developed through that kind of sustained engagement. So we are exploring this year, actually trying to foster that kind of work in those kinds of areas by supporting fully teams of scholars to do this work. And we've kept it, as Sean described it so well, we've kept it very broad, really emphasizing only the importance of there being a sustained track record of collaboration, but with no specifics about the what, except to say that we want to focus this project on the subject of the environment as it is seen through the lenses of artists and scholars. That's really it. And I would add, for those of you who have not been following our website and our events over the past year, that this exploration, this pilot project, follows work that we've begun to do in Rome in the past year through our concert programming, through seminar and lecture programming. We've begun to emphasize the importance of environmental matters which is something that, of course, the Academy, through its garden and through its RFFP, has been invested in for many years. What we're looking to do now is to eliminate some of the siloing between parts of the institution that might have not have been considered essential to the intellectual venture, the creative venture in the first, but more its service or support staff, and integrating that quite naturally into the intellectual creative side of the institution. And in this, we are really just following trends and transformations that have occurred in academia in the United States over the past 20 years. We're not, in that sense, innovating terribly much, even though in our specific context, it counts as new. So we're very excited about this and looking forward to seeing how the fellowship develops and it in turn can help foster new programming going forward. And similarly for the other fellowship, by Sean, the Tsao Family Fellowship, which is really devoted to exploring relationships across the wider Mediterranean, across Central Asia to China, or if you want to think about it in a different way, looking at the two ongoing ancient civilizations of the Mediterranean and China in a perspective that unites, brings together the arts and intellectual creativity. So I think these give some sense of the widest horizons of academic work at the Academy and how we're looking at things these days. But by talking about them, I in no way want to diminish the traditional areas in which we work in art history and the study of the past, in architecture, the history of architecture. And so it's a great pleasure as I pass the baton back to Sean, just to thank our participants tonight, who really represent the way in which Zane has been so important for shaping our understanding of the world, the physical world, the material world, the human beings, the village around them, and both their understanding of where those worlds came from and their aspirations for changing the future through building those ways. I thank all of you for joining us tonight, and most of all our panelists, and Sean will introduce them in the next part of our program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I'm pleased to introduce Denise and Hillary. Denise Costanzo was the Marion and Andrew High School Postdoctoral Rome Prize Fellow in Modern Italian Studies for the 2014-15 academic year. Denise is an associate professor of architecture at Penn State University. She is a historian of architecture whose work interrogates Italy's complex legacies in 20th century global architectural culture. Her forthcoming book, Modern Architects and the Problem of the Post-War Rome Prize, France, Spain, Britain, and America, which will be published by the University of Virginia Press in 2026, began with research during her fellowship. Denise's books include Italian Imprints on 20th Century Architecture from Bloomsbury in 2022, and she co-edited with Andrew Leach, sorry. She has also published and lectured on Robert Venturi, Denise Scott Brown, Colin Rowe, Romeldo Giorgola, and the post-war reception of Italy's fascist and early modern architecture. Our other panelist, Hillary Sample, received the Arnold W. Brunner, Catherine Edwards Gordon Rome Prize with her partner Michael Meredith, and they were fellows at the Academy in 2022 and 23. Hillary co-founded internationally acclaimed studio MOS, spelled MOS, with Michael in 2003. Hillary is also the IDC Professor of Housing Design at Columbia University's Graduate School for Architecture, Planning, and Preservation. Her work focuses on the creation of cultural and educational spaces within vacant spaces through collective housing, schools, community centers, galleries, and public art installations. She is the recipient of the 2010 American Academy of Arts and Letters Award in Architecture, the Smithsonian Cooper Hewitt National Design Award in 2015, the Architectural League of New York Emerging Voices in 2008, and a 2020 United States Artist Award. I want to thank both Denise and Hillary for joining us, and we're going to talk a little bit about their experiences at the Academy. Do you want me to start it off, Peter, with a question? Or okay, sure. So could each of you talk a little bit about what impact the fellowship had on your work, on you, and how did it change your life, would you say? Let's start with you, Denise, since
Not a small question.
no.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Peter. Thank you all for being here. I think transformational is too small of a word, perhaps. It was really an incredibly valuable space in which I had reached a certain point. I was a kind of early career scholar. I had a non-tenure line faculty appointment. And so because of that and the realities of the job market, my publishing ambitions were focused very much in my scholarship on things that would be completed quickly. I was really not in a position to invest in the long-term kind of book projects that I wanted to do. And so that was what I proposed as my Rome Prize project. And when I got there, I was still finishing up some of those other shorter term projects, but it provided a space where I not only had the opportunity to, but I felt the sort of duty, the obligation to make the most of that year and dive into the preliminary research and thinking and preparation for what has turned out to be a much longer road. It's been over 10 years since I was there, which is kind of a terrifying thought. But along the way, other things showed up that needed to happen. There was a small pandemic you may have heard of that made getting back to certain archives really difficult. But I am on the cusp of finishing that large, sort of overwhelming project that I don't think there's no way I would be where I am without that. It got me into a tenure track position, and I'm now tenured. So from a professional viewpoint, that was very helpful in establishing the security to focus on a kind of large and overwhelming project for my career and to let it become what it needed to become and feel the confidence and just gain that traction. So the experience of being in the community, the experience of being right there with all the resources, as well as the way the Academy opens doors, all of those things were just priceless, as well as pleasurable.
Thank you. Hillary?
Hi, Sean. Thank you for having me here, and Peter and Denise. It's great to be here this evening. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm actually here at another McKim Mead and White campus. I'm at Columbia, and so for me, it's really also just poignant to think about how the American Academy was founded by architects or an architect, and kind of reinforcing that idea of the intersection of history and culture, and the way that they were kind of collaborative firm, but that our work we do is part of being in conversation with others. And I think for Michael and I, we were really interested in going to Rome in a kind of recent way. I think we as students spent time in Italy, and then maybe in a way a little bit forgot about Rome to some degree, and after COVID really started thinking about the possibility of what it would mean to have an opportunity to be in Rome. And for us, our research and our work and practice evolves a lot around many collaborative projects, not just, we always say we're no less than two voices, and we're doing a lot of projects with other architects kind of around the world. And this is something that's become really important to us. So the idea of having an opportunity to continue our work and be sort of like students again, but in the context of other super thoughtful, talented people, but from different disciplines was really very exciting for us. And to have the chance to look at a very important housing residential building in the case of for myself looking at Corviale was really what we had proposed when we went there. And we wound up doing several projects around Corviale, as well as other work, drawing and making ceramics and, just talking with all of the different, our cohort, which was incredible. And we're, really, it's true, there's maybe not a facet of our lives that have not been touched and just elevated and treasured from our experiences there. And we're in touch with so many people. We have a WhatsApp. I hope it's okay I'm saying this, but we talk almost daily. It's somebody's posting something. It's really remarkable. I think it's really exceptional. And we've been doing work together in different projects, whether that's through our practice or also teaching. I'm going to be doing a new seminar with Lynn Nottage here in the spring. So it's just things that we just possibly couldn't have imagined are happening. We feel very, very lucky. And we also had brought our children at the time who were in 5th grade. So they were able to study in Rome. They were able to also, we had incredible amount of kids at the time at the academy. So post-COVID for them was amazing. And they, they really participated in the community and worked in the kitchen and planted in the garden. And we don't know yet how this impacts them, but that's also, I think, just a wonderful experience that we were really grateful for.
Okay. I'd also like to ask, what for each of you, what was the best thing about the fellowship? I mean, I know that might be hard. Narrow it to one thing, but
it's hard. I mean, I think to have it's the time and the space to do your work and reflect on things. I think part of it is, we're maybe a little older than some of our cohort and then not at the same time. So we have a fair amount of life experience and questions and reflections, and that we could do that in the context of the group we were with.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's, the food is great. And obviously Rome is great and the Academy is great. But it is really that ability, so much of the noise that we're dealing with in our regular personal and career lives. You're in a context that allows you to both filter those things out that make it hard for you to do your work, and then to fold in people and conversations and ideas and opportunities that are often really unexpected. And just that need that opportunity to be in conversation with people at every meal, every day. It's so enriching, but yeah, it's the focus, that real amazing gift of monotasking, if you want it.
was there anything about the fellowship that surprised you?
Well, I'm in a weird position because I actually study the fellowship, and so I got a fellowship to study the fellowship. So my work is on the history of the Rome Prize at a particular moment in its history, and I'm looking not only at the American but at 3 other institutions. So I had been to the Academy as someone using, archives and libraries, and I was a visiting scholar for a short period. I think the thing that surprised me the most was how different it felt to be there as a fellow. There was something really moving about the sense that this was my home for a year. I was not a guest. And so that, I think, when you meet former fellows, past fellows, everyone owns it. Everyone has a stake in that place. And there really is a kind of remarkable experience that comes with, walking through the gates, and it's like, yeah, I'm home here. So I felt that was a kind of gut level reaction I didn't expect.
Hillary, anything that surprised you about the fellowship?
Yeah, I think for me, I was surprised about the relationships with the kind of Italian architecture community in Rome, and the support through the advisors. That was something we only heard a little bit about before we went, and but once we arrived, it was really remarkable the amount of time and generosity, and sort of a few introductions, and led to other introductions and opportunities to lecture. And the night before we left, one of the local architecture offices hosted a reception for us and our work. And so, and we've continued these conversations with them, and it's just, kind of wonderful support in that way, and just real generosity and interest. So yeah, it's just great.
Well, you both had children with you at the Academy. So is there anything about that you would say that you would want to share with somebody who might be considering this opportunity?
My case was unusual because mine were older. They were both in high school, and they had the experience of being in Italy on with their dad's sabbatical was in Trieste a couple years before. So they made the decision to stay at home for the regular school year, and then they just came in the summer.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it played out in our case. But I could see, I think don't hesitate to bring your kids. I saw many wonderful solutions to the complexities and challenges that come up, and it's definitely a great and welcoming environment.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, for our children, they were in 5th grade, so about 10. It's kind of a great age. They're not yet where they have homework in school. So their homework was Rome in a way. And there were many kids at the Academy. They, they had their own table. Everyone was really wonderful for the children. And I think, we also understand not everyone wants to be around kids when they're trying to do their scholarship. So we all tried very hard to work together to make sure they weren't a distraction. But they had so many incredible opportunities there, from tea time after school to, like I said, kind of working in the garden, going around. And I think for them, it's also been trying to, they ask us about Rome all the time. So this, for sure has changed their lives, and they're, also in touch with all of their friends, and it's just a really exceptional experience.
Before we open up to the Q&A, I just want to ask one last thing. Is there anything else that you just would like to share about the experience? Anything from application through the fellowship, through post-fellowship, anything that you just think is important to share with somebody who's considering this?
I'll just say I applied twice, and I found just the application process clarifying. The first time I applied, I had a certain conception of what I thought my project would be. And through that process, I came to realize, actually, that's one really big thing and one little thing. And it was just very helpful. So I would say, if you're even maybe considering it, just the process of putting the application together, I found immensely helpful, constructive in figuring out some things that I needed to clarify.
Very good.
I would say things like things maybe we've always wanted to do, or we used to do in the past, but we had to, put to the side to do other things, or things that we were actually able to do there, and have been able to continue now, and have made these new practices more or less permanent. That time is short, and we really value these opportunities. And I I'm kind of a shy person, but I feel like I have become more social as a result of this experience, and then also just maybe becoming a little bit more uncompromising in the value of time and work, whether it's for ourselves or being available for colleagues. So it's just it's a really life-altering experience for sure.
If I can add,
Oh, sure.
it's a great chance to do a reset on many fronts. Yeah, I agree, Hillary. How you structure your day, how you structure your life.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. And so now we're going to go ahead and open this up to questions. So those of you who have questions for us, please use the Q&A feature, which is at the bottom of your screen. And I would say, in terms of asking questions, if it's just general stuff about the Rome Prize, feel free to send me an email about those. I think now would be it would be better used to asking our two fellows here about their experiences, because you won't have as many chances to do that. So I would say try to focus on that if you can. And I also just want to, while I'm waiting for a question to pop up, I just want to say, elaborate on something Denise said, which was, she said she applied again, and I would definitely encourage people to reapply. If you don't make it the first time, definitely give it a shot a second time. It's we have fewer fellowships than great candidates, so it's important to keep that in mind. And okay, so we have a question here, which is how much did your project change or evolve beyond your initial proposal?
Great question. My proposal was kind of a sort of preliminary roadmap, and I made a certain amount of progress along the way on the roadmap. So I think it was vague enough that it didn't necessarily change direction so much as begin to crystallize as I started to understand what it could be. There were definitely things that popped up along the way. The Academy creates these opportunities if you want to organize an event, for instance, and I ended up doing one that involved a lot of the city's academies and getting to know more about their specific post-World War II histories, which was fantastic. So I would say, there's plenty of room. I mean, the amazing thing is you're only accountable to yourself. The incredible trust that is placed in all the recipients is amazing. So that's my particular answer.
Anything you want to add to that, Hillary, or add about yours?
Yeah, I think just having the opportunity to go in person, for instance, to Corviale, and sit in people's apartments and hear their stories, but then also discover kind of faculty and a few other actually women who were organizing spaces there and archiving. Had read about it sort of here in New York, but actually getting to go and visit in person and have conversations. It's not so much that it changed the actual topic, but it gave a deeper meaning and opportunity. And again, those conversations have continued since, so that was unexpected.
Okay, great. Our next question is, does the Academy facilitate opportunities for Rome Prize Fellows to engage with local artists and scholars? So, okay, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, Hillary mentioned the connections that she found, and I had a similar experience. It kind of, sort of depends on where you want to go, but if you just sort of give a little hint of what you might like, they do so much to make connections. So you have the advisors, but you also have events that bring people in the door, and they really do try to keep track of who's around and help people who might have a point of common interest find each other because it's often hard, you have a quick travel, trip here and there. And so people's schedules can be a little chaotic, but they really work to make those opportunities happen in my experience. So I had that for sure.
Yeah, I agree, Denise. And I think the other fellows too, as we made some contacts through other fellows who recommended us because they were also going out to different events, things like the walk and talks and some of the travel trips where you really get to know the fellows more closely, and then the repetition of seeing each other at lunch and dinner and traveling together on the weekends also fostered conversations and other connections and opportunities like, hey, I remember you said this thing and I know this person. And so that really amazing.
And if I can just jump in, I mean, I think that both the advising system, which was already mentioned, where we have a pretty broad network of artists, scholars who live in Rome, who mirror the areas in which we invite Rome Prize winners. They serve automatically, just by virtue of their existence, as a bridge to what goes on in Roman and Italian institutions more generally. So that's one thing. And then a lot of our programming is done in collaboration with institutions in Rome. And we encourage and try to foster opportunities for fellows to connect with people who will be of interest to them because of what they do and make, who live in Rome or not far beyond. So it is an important aspect of the life of fellows.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is for Hillary. How did you manage your ongoing client projects while you were in Rome? Someone's asking.
Oh, well, for 20 years at least, I've always done projects remotely. So we're pretty set up to be able to handle the kind of communication. And we have people in our studio. We're a very small practice. So we would talk with people, daily about the work. And we're, like I said, we're doing a lot of collaborative projects. So we're talking to the studio, but also clients. And it's just part of our.
Okay, great.
Great. The internet was great. There was no problem with the connection. So.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. Here's a pretty broad question. What was the biggest adjustment to the Academy lifestyle?
Well, I think I've never gone on a cruise, but I think there's a little bit of a cruise ship character to it. I kind of think of it as sort of floating above the city. And so, as Hillary mentioned, you're really, you kind of are acquiring a new family. And so, yes, it's a lot of bumping to each other in the hallways, sharing meals. So there's a very strong communal dimension, which was really great. I enjoyed that very much. I think you also have to figure out how you want to handle all of the opportunities, right? Most of us that get there will have a little bit of a tunnel vision on a project. I'm here to do X. And then there will be the Friday walk and talks in the mornings, which are amazing. And then there will be the field trip, other opportunities. There will be events and lectures and things that come in. So you think about it as being all of this free time, but then there are all these opportunities. So how busy it was while also being so productive and also feeling leisurely in many ways. How much you get done when life is structured that way and you say yes to a lot of things that maybe don't feel like they'll be productive, but actually, as Hillary was just saying, can turn out to be these really enriching moments and connections. So.
I agree with Denise, everything you're saying. And I think also too, just some of the conversations around a lot of fellows, of course, are teaching and in academia, and then to also be a parent. So to have conversations around that at whatever stage you are in your career, that was very useful and unexpected, I think.
Our newest question is, was your cohort more or less in similar points in their careers? Or was there a range from emerging to mid-career and established artists, architects, and scholars in the fellowship?
Mine was a huge range. We had people like Karen Goldberg, the late dear Karen Goldberg, in graphic design, immense figure in her field, for instance, and people who were established in their careers, and this was again a valuable reset, but mid-career, early career, and PhD students. So it was, and some younger early artists as well. So it was a fabulous range, and I really liked that. Actually.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I think people were at different points in their careers, and that was also very useful. But also the travel, the fellow travelers. I think two things were surprising to me were the fellow travelers, but also the number of people that visit the Academy, previous winners, people coming invited back. Everyone was at a different point really in their career, but especially I would say those two groups and their willingness to share their work that they were doing, the visitors coming for maybe a month or a couple of weeks, opening their apartments or meeting and presenting their work. And similarly, the fellow travelers also having their own projects and sharing that and, absolutely as enriching as the fellows in many ways. And I think in our group, we were exceptional because we also had the kind of luck of having the cohort that had been there during COVID, the Academy invited back for a few weeks. So we got to we were meeting so many people that I didn't know we were going to have that opportunity, and people we knew and already and others we hadn't met. So that was really super.
I think we have time for one more question here. What opportunities are there for fellow travelers to engage in the intellectual community related to sort of what? Yeah.
Anything. It's amazing. All, events are public. Joining at dinners, people connect. We had Stefania Tutino, who was there. Her husband's a physicist. He was working out at the Vatican Observatory. It's totally open. The library is there. I didn't see anything closed off to anybody. And as Hillary says, I agree completely. The broader community, both long-term and short-term, it kind of crystallizes in its own way. But yeah, it was fantastic. I saw a lot of engagement.
Anything you want to add to that, Hillary?
I agree with what Denise said, and I think also for the fellow travelers, the ones that we got to meet and in some ways work with, even were just instrumental in our thinking and vice versa. I think there's just a kind of spirit to share work, and once you're all around the table having lunch, you're asking them, what are you working on, and it's great.
Thank you. Well, thank you both, and I thank everybody here for participating. I see we have a lot of questions that we didn't get to. What we've done the last few times that we've done this is I go ahead and answer those that I can that aren't directed to our guests here, but that are just about the Rome Prize, and then I send around an email with all those questions and answers for people to review. So I will do the same. It probably won't be tomorrow, and it takes a little while to do that, but I will get those out to you. Peter, do you have any last words that you would like to?
Well, I think there's no better advertisement for the quality of the place than fellows like Denise and Hillary. Nor nevertheless is there any one life at the American Academy of Rome, nor any one path through it. One of the exciting things about having a community full of dynamic, creative people is that the specific forms in which they choose to seize the opportunity and to mold its resources to their own future will vary from person to person. So it's in broad line, I think we can all agree that it is a place that will give you back as much as you give it. As an American freeing, liberating effect, and all of the quotidian demands that are put upon us. But the specific ways in which it works its magic, like all magic, hard to define.
Well, thank you all. Thank you. So we'll end this here. Thanks a lot.
Denise, Lori, thank you so much. Sean, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Peter.
all.
Thanks,
Hillary, a
Denise. Thanks,
pleasure
everyone.
to meet you this way. I know we've met
Thank-
briefly in the past, but this was lovely.
Yes, wise. Thank you so much.